Hey there, welcome back to The Simple Truth with Stuart. Feeling stuck in a sales rut? Do you find yourself closing deals less often than you'd like? This episode is your ultimate blueprint for mastering the art of sales. We'll dive into proven strategies to build rapport, overcoming objectives, and close more deals. Get ready to transform your sales game and watch your success rocket. Let's get started. Hey, welcome everybody. Something that I want to talk about today is how to master your sales techniques when you're going into any kind of negotiation with a new client, existing client, etc. And so too often we go into these particular discussions unprepared, or in some cases, we actually have the lack of confidence or the lack of skills to actually do it, to actually be able to close the sale. So let me ask you this. What if you could close 10% more of your sales or your team sales? Now, 10% doesn't sound like a huge amount, but let's put it down to some numbers. If on average, you closed or you proposed 10 proposals in a month, and you closed maybe 2 of those proposals every single month, what would happen to your life if you could close an additional proposal every single month? Now, it doesn't sound like a huge amount, but when we take it over a year, that's an additional 12 proposals or 12 sales in a year that you have actually been able to close. But more importantly, you're actually going to start to learn the confidence, you'll start to learn the skills, and it's not just going to be a 10% growth. It'll then slowly grow to a 20, 30, 40, 50% growth. Now, for you as an individual, yeah, that's great. But think of this as a team. Think of this when you start to expand and you've got 10 members in your team, and each member could actually close an additional transaction. If they did 10 proposals in a month and they closed 1 extra every single month, well, that means an extra 10 proposals getting accepted in a month, but an extra 120 proposals that gets accepted in a year. And as they start going through it, again, their skills, their confidence will start to grow. And this is where it begins. It begins with understanding the technique. Now, I'm going to share with you a very simple blueprint. And this blueprint, if you had to write it down on a piece of paper, goes something like this. There's a beginning and there's an end. That's basically the blueprint. The beginning is really that first conversation of trying to give your proposal, trying to get as much information to your client without bombarding them with so much information that it just knocks the sale away. So the beginning is giving information. The close or the end is actually getting the order or closing that proposal. That's the simple side of it. Now, that sounds easy, but is it? No. But can it be easy? Absolutely, if you know how. Now, there's a couple of things that you really need to start to embrace when you want to become, and we're going to call you sales champions. You're going to master this sales technique. There's a couple of things that you need to do internally as a person. And if you're working with a team, you need to make sure that they start to embrace this. And really, it starts with the mindset. Mindset is such an important part of a sales journey. If someone goes into a negotiation, they go into a discussion with the client, and their mindset is, I'm not going to close this. I just don't have the confidence to close this. Well, the chances of them actually closing that particular deal actually gets reduced quite dramatically. And the reason why so many people go into these transactions with that type of mindset is because maybe they're doing it for the first time. Maybe they've had a negative experience. Maybe it's just something where they don't know how. So in essence, they start to wing it. And what you find is they'll find and establish what works, what doesn't work. But that journey that they go on, it's not the greatest of journeys. So we want to eliminate that and start you with a positive mindset. We want you to believe in yourself. We want you to look at yourself and say, I am the most powerful sales champion out there. And start believing in yourself because you are a powerful sales champion. You've just got to accept it, which means taking that first step, changing the self-talk to a positive self-talk that you're the champion. The second is actually having a positive attitude towards it, not going in with anything negative. Forget about it. I never close these deals, so why even do it? That type of attitude leads to, well, not closing enough deals. If you can change your attitude of, I'm going in, I'm going to learn, I'm going to master this, I'm actually going to close this transaction. When you can get your mindset to that level where you're actually setting yourself up for success, amazing things starts to happen. And really, if we had to put it down into a percentage of how important your mindset is, it exceeds 80%. Your mindset is so vitally important when you're actually going through. Now, you've got the strong mindset, you've set yourself up, you've got that energy, your attitude is positive, you're actually gearing yourself and you're ready now. You want to go forward. But there's a couple of little things that we need to almost take recognition of before we actually start. And there's a little phrase. I did a training course, and there's this phrase that I want you to start to say to yourself before you go into any kind of discussion. You've got the mindset, and you're going to say to yourself, be brave. I want you to be brave. Now, being brave is actually taking that courage to do the actions. But more importantly, brave is actually an acronym. And it's this acronym that's actually going to help you just to break things down a little bit, especially in the first part of any kind of deal, which is the beginning. So your mindset's positive. You're going to be saying to yourself, be brave, be brave. What is brave? Well, I'm going to break this down quite simply for you. Brave is an acronym. The B is be yourself. That is straightforward and simple. Be yourself. Do not try to be somebody else. Don't try and complicate things by trying to put on a persona of somebody else. Be yourself. If you're a quiet individual, be a quiet individual. If you're a loud individual, be a loud individual. If you're a happy individual, be a happy individual. Be yourself. You see, your clients will start seeing the authenticity of who you are. When you start to put on personas and you meet them for the second time and you've had a bit of a bad day and you forget to switch that persona on, your client's going to look at you and go, who are you? You're not the same person I spoke with last week or last month. So the B is be yourself. Be your authentic self throughout this journey. Now, the R, well, R is building rapport. You see, nobody does business with people that they don't have a level of rapport. Either you've got rapport with the brand, you've got rapport with the product, with the service, with the individual. You need to build rapport. And rapport is all about connection, but more importantly, starting to build trust. And once you start building that trust, you will find that the conversations that you actually have with the individual is going to start building a relationship. And once you start building that relationship, whether it's a professional or a specific type of deal or service, that professional relationship will carry you going into the future. And what's so important is when somebody trusts you, ultimately, it's not about price. It's about what you deliver, because that delivery is what they actually want. Yes, they want a discounted price, but it's that delivery of what you actually can serve to them. So be brave. Well, be yourself. R, make sure that you build a rapport with your clients. The A is actively listen to your clients. So too often when we're standing in front of a client, we don't actually listen. We're busy thinking about what's going to happen on the weekend, what I need to get for lunch, maybe one thing that my partner said to me yesterday, and that's now bugging me in the back of my mind, or maybe you've got a pet that's ill. See, there's a lot that happens in the back of our mind on an ongoing basis. We need to be actively listening to our clients. And actively listening includes a level of feedback. If a client tells you something about their requirements, their needs, their wants, by actively listening is actually confirming what you've heard. If I understand you correctly, you're looking for this. By doing that, you're actually going to start to have this two-way communication with your client. And when you start having more fluid communications with your clients, that active listening becomes so crucial because you'll be able to identify their wants and needs. Then you come onto the V, and the V is something that you need to make sure that you understand it. It's what value are you going to offer your client? What is that value proposition of yours? Or what's the value proposition of the brand or the value proposition of the company? It's so important that you know it. Way too many times, I've gone with a client to listen to, and it's through a role play, listen to their proposals. And when I start asking them about, so what value are you going to add into it? Just a simple question. They get stumped. They're not sure how to answer it. So make sure you understand your value proposition. It is so important. And as a side note, I do a session on value proposition on how to actually build and prepare that for you. So the V is know the value you're going to offer your clients. And then finally, we come down to, well, it's the E. And the E is all about having empathy. And empathy is connecting with your clients, not on a level where you feel the emotion. Empathy is connecting on your client where your client feels the emotion of what you're offering. It feels good. It feels right. And you need to make sure that you're closing with that level of empathy, because when it feels right and they've got that emotional connection, well, then the sale will go through so much smoother. So remember, be brave whenever you're actually going into a particular discussion with anybody. So be yourself. R, make sure that you've got rapport. A, actively listen. V, understand your value proposition and what value you're going to add. And E, it's the empathy to make sure that your client has an emotional connection to the product or the service, because it's that emotional connection to the product or service that actually makes the price disappear almost. So just remember that when you're going in. Now that builds you up and it gets those connections and it's helping you to get over that little peak to the second part. Now, in the journey of the second part, it can get a little bit complicated, because if life was, hey, here's my product, and they go, thank you very much, or here's my service, and they go, thank you very much, man, that would be absolutely amazing, and that would be simple. However, the truth of the matter is, we're going to get objections. We're going to get our clients giving us an objection. For instance, well, your opposition is cheaper, or maybe your opposition has a better product than you. It's when you start seeing these objections, you got to know how to handle it. And this is the part where, for many of us, we look at an objection and it's like, oh gosh, they don't want it. We automatically assume they don't want it. I like to look at it as an objection is a client not truly understanding what you're offering. That's what I That's what I see as an objection. It's when a client does not truly understand what you're offering. So, what you need to do is when you hear an objection, you need to convert that objection into an opportunity. That's what the most important is. So, your price is too expensive. Oh, I understand. I'm accepting. I'm going to acknowledge what you're saying. That's the active listening. I acknowledge that you believe that our prices are a little bit more, but what are you expecting as far as a feature? What are you expecting as far as a service? It's a question to your client. That will get your client to start talking about, well, I'm looking for this type of service, this type of product, this, and they start to actually explain all of that. Now, what you've actually done in a sales technique is you've moved their mindset from the objection to what they want and need. Then it's a matter of now that's the opportunity. They're telling you the opportunity. You're now understanding your value proposition, are going to be able to support and talk to their wants and needs. And then once you're going through that process, you're going to get your client to understand your offering better. So you take an objection, you convert it into an opportunity. So the first part is, hey, I acknowledge your objection, but what is it that you specifically want as far as a feature, a benefit, a service? Get them talking about their wants and their needs, because when they start talking about it, the opportunities are just coming straight at you. They're landing in your face, and you can start talking to those wants and needs, those opportunities, and build it up. And then it goes into the final part. And the final part is the close. Because once you're now talking about those wants and needs, the close is quite straightforward. The close is now linking what you can deliver now that they're understanding it. The price, well, let's say it almost becomes irrelevant, but it's now to close. We're not closing on the price, which was the objection. We're closing on the opportunity. And for many of us, we feel that that's the hardest. Well, when you're actually delivering your value proposition to what your client wants and needs, it's actually just a straightforward process of just asking them, are you ready to go forward? Let's go forward. Using those powerful closing techniques where it's straightforward. You ready to sign? Let's sign. Are you ready to buy? Let's go to the till and put the actual order in. It's actually doing the close. This is where a person that doesn't have the skill, they slip up slightly, because what they do is once they hear the wants and needs, they deliver their value proposition, and the client is saying, yes, I understand, and that is what I want. The salesperson then starts to think, hey, I've got this in the bag, and they start talking about something else. What they start doing is they start taking that memory, that discussion that they've just had, and they're pushing it to one side, and they start talking about something else, something sociable. And I can guarantee as soon as you take your client off that track, which is getting them the yeses, they're going to go straight back to your objection. They're going to go, oh, but the price, no, the price. So the close is so important. When you've got them and they understand your offering, you close them right there and then. You don't wait, you don't delay, you don't add any additional. When you can see that they are saying yes and they're ready, you get them to close, you get them to sign and move forward. Just by doing that, you're going to start to increase your actual sales performance. It's going to start with at least what I've shared with you today will give you at least 10% more success in your business. Now, it's not guaranteed 10% because you've got to do it. You've actually got to implement it. But once you're going through this process, it's not a process where you just do it once. The secret on this is you don't want 10%. You don't want 20%. In fact, you don't want 50%. You want to be closing more than 80% to 100% of all of your proposals. And the only way that you can do that is with continuous improvements, doing this on an ongoing basis. And how do we do this on an ongoing basis? With most of my clients, I always suggest to them, role play with me. Sit down, let's have a session. Let's go through from start to finish. Let's be brave. Let's go through those objections. Let's make sure that we get that close into play. Let's practice and practice until it becomes natural for you, that it becomes a conversation that's easy to flow. Once you start doing that, you're going to start practicing live with your clients. In the beginning, you feel a bit nervous. That's okay. It's normal. You're a human, by the way. But as you start going through it, your confidence will start to improve. You'll start to learn what works for you and what doesn't work for you. What is the value proposition that you need to research and prepare for so that you can deliver? It might be something that it's a brochure that you hand to them. You will start to understand and improve on it all the time. Remember, you want to stay ahead of the person you were yesterday. So you want to stay ahead of the person that you were yesterday. And if yesterday you were nervous, you were introverted, you just didn't have that skill, today you're going to go confidence. You're going to have the strength and the courage to be brave, to take those objectives and or objections, and move them into opportunities. Start adding your value and discussing your value proposition to those opportunities. And once you've got your clients that's actually now accepting that, you go straight for the close. And you do that often, you will find that you're going to start to increase your sales percentages. You're going to start becoming a sales master, or more important, a sales champion, because this is how you transform your sales as you're going forward. That's it for this episode on Mastering Your Sales Game. Remember, a successful sales career requires a positive mindset, strong rapport building skills, the ability to overcome objections, and a knack for closing deals. By implementing these strategies, you can transform your sales game and achieve your goals. Stay tuned for more sales tips and tricks on The Simple Truth with Stuart.